Lincoln, Spielberg, and Daniel Day-Lewis taking the crown in terms of the good cheer and everything. Was this a surprise to see them do so well?
No, Lincoln has been the front runner for most of the award season, and it was expected to get the most nominations. Some actually thought it could have gotten a couple more, but 12 nominations is a significant amount. It's now the front runner to win.
My big surprise here was Ben Affleck. He was campaigning really hard to get a Best Director nomination. His movie Argo got nominated for Best Picture, but they overlooked him here.
Yeah, the Affleck non-nomination is a big snub here because he got a Directors Guild nomination, he's gotten a bunch of other honors this award season, and then it just didn't come through with the Academy.
Let's talk about money for a second. Zero Dark 30 only cost $20 million to make. They think it's going to make 130 in the opening weekend. When you look at the movies that have been nominated here, where could a studio get the most bang for their buck in terms of what cost the most and what's gotten the most nods?
Well, this is a very key period for a couple of the movies that have been nominated for Best Picture. Zero Dark 30, which got a Best Picture nomination, did not get a Best Director nomination for Catherine Bigelow, but it's opening this weekend wide across the country, and the studio, Sony Pictures, is hoping that interest from the Oscars is going to carry it through this opening weekend and through its run. So they're hoping that this buzz around the film will translate into dollars. The same is true for Silver Linings Playbook, another film that has been out in limited release and is expanding wider this weekend based on its 8 nominations. Hopefully people will see the Oscar noms and all of the attention and decide to go to the movies this weekend.
Is it more important for that Oscar buzz to result in sales overseas or in the United States?
Well, I think they want both, but in Lincoln's case, the film hasn't opened overseas yet, and there was a real risk factor here because the question is whether overseas audiences are going to want to see a very American story about an American president, and the studio that's distributing overseas, News Corp's 20th Century Fox, really hopes that these Oscar nominations are going to carry it overseas throughout its run there.
Hold on a second. What is interesting there is overseas, and you've talked about this with us, especially in places like China, Russia. They love American pop culture. They love Batman. They love, They
like Jason Statham a lot.
Exactly. They like McG kind of big, flashy Americana things, but they don't like American history. Why is that? Just because it's not cool?
Well, they love big American blockbusters, but the movies that tend to get nominated for Oscars are smaller movies. Lincoln, yes, it comes from Steven Spielberg, but there's very little action in it. There's very little of the kinds of things that translate into a big international audience. It's very talky. It's very much based on the politics of the era in the American South. So they withheld the film from overseas until these Oscar nominations come out, and hopefully it can ride the prestige, because there is one thing that overseas audiences do care about, and that's the Oscars.
And they care about the Oscar ceremony itself. Seth MacFarlane will be the host. Does he translate well overseas?
Seth MacFarlane is a bit of an unknown because he's not a widely known person even in this country. I mean, he's a big, he's made a lot of shows and a movie this summer, Ted, that people like, but he is not a big personality, and the Oscars are hoping over the next month or so to sort of introduce him to audiences both here and overseas, because people frankly don't know him because he doesn't appear on screen. He just does the voices.
I want to go back to dollars for one more minute. Obviously, Les Mis is getting critical acclaim here. They've gotten quite a few nods. It's not often that you see studios put these kind of big dollars into musicals. Many musicals have lost them money. Do you think we're going to see a change in 2013 after the big success that Les Mis is seeing?
I think that's true. You're going to see more musicals, but there's a very big difference here. Les Miserables is a phenomenon around the world. The stage play, the musical, has played, bunch of countries. It's done very well around the world. So making this movie was a bit easier to say yes to because of the built-in audience. Mamma Mia, which is a very similar worldwide phenomenon, made $800 million overseas, around the world. And I don't think Les Mis is going to get to that number, but it's going to do very well.